I wanted to make a video to to as a reminder of a conversation that I had last night with Judah. Well, it was really this morning, um, around 1:30 almost this morning, about maybe 1:15 this morning, and today is April 1st, 2021. Judah is 6 years old, nearly 7, and we'd just gotten back to Salt Lake City from his spring break trip. We went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to visit my younger brother Matt and his family, and to get some family time in. And the beard is, this was my vacation look this time. I didn't shave at all while we were out of town, but I need a shave. So it was about 12:30 a.m. Today, and we had just landed at Salt Lake International Airport. We flew Frontier. It was our first time flying since COVID, also since the new expansion of the Salt Lake International Airport. What I didn't realize was that Frontier has the longest walk of the airlines here at Salt Lake International now. It's literally about a mile to the gates from the ticket counter. So we were beginning our trek back. Judah had fallen asleep on the flight and was now awake. I was carrying him on my shoulders and carrying a backpack with all of our carry-on belongings on my back, and a few other things in my arms. Needless to say, it was a long walk. When we made it to the luggage carousel, the luggage had not made it to the carousel yet. We got there at 11:30 p.m. That's when we got there, when we arrived at the airport. The luggage didn't start coming out until about 12:30 a.m. And all I had was one checked luggage, and Judah had a booster seat that I packed with us. So we were waiting for those two items, and over the speaker they said, "Hey, we're about to start unloading the luggage for this flight, but just so you know, booster seats and other irregular sized items will be unloaded last." So I already knew. I was like, okay, we've got to get the luggage, and then we'll just wait until all the other luggages have come up, and then here comes the booster seats. So we're waiting. The booster seats start to come up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were a good number of kids on this flight, and a lot of booster seats and car seats, and we watched them each go by, waiting for Judah's. After a while, everyone had cleared out. The conveyor was still going, but no more luggage was being brought up. So I went to the luggage attendant and let her know, that we're still waiting on on a booster seat. It's kind of important. It's about a 40-minute drive almost back to the house from the airport, and he's 6, He's small for a 6-year-old, so I didn't really want to be driving after midnight with him in the back seat without a booster seat on. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't have been the worst thing that could have happened, but I don't know, it was for my own peace of mind. I wanted his seat. So she checked and realized that they don't have his booster seat, and they don't know where it is. It was checked in Tulsa. Luggage did have to swap out in Denver. So it could be at the Denver airport. It could be that it didn't make it off of the plane after the first plane landed in Denver, and then it just went on to whatever the next destination was for that particular plane. Either way, they didn't have it. So now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. Judah is exhausted, but now he doesn't have his booster seat, and he was so disappointed. I was trying not to let my frustration show. Obviously, this luggage attendant didn't have any control over what was or wasn't on the plane. But I was pretty frustrated. I was tired as well. I was pretty frustrated. Well, Judah just had a meltdown. He was so upset about this lost booster seat, and how is he gonna get home? And then the lady offered us this little plastic booster seat that, I swear, it was almost like something that you would use in a restaurant or something. But she's like, well, we have this that you can take with you. And she was trying to offer an option. And I was just like, what is that? I mean, I may as well sit him on a telephone book. In an accident, that's not going to provide any kind of chest, neck, head, support. Like anyhow, that was just where my mind was. I was pretty frustrated. Judah was having a hard time. He was just crying and crying and crying. And I felt like he just needed to let it out. So this became the teachable moment. We had been talking about our vacation adventure. He called it an adventure. Going on planes and traveling from one state to the next, and going and doing things that he had never done before when we got to Oklahoma. And we had an adventure. So we'd made it back safely to Salt Lake. Now we just needed to go pick up my car and get home. And man, the whole day had gone great. It really did. He's such an amazing travel buddy, and he exceeded my expectations of what it would be like to travel alone. This was our first time traveling, just the two of us, without Charisse. And it was, it's different. But he was so helpful. He really was. So I said, look, this is a part of the adventure. Like, the adventure doesn't end until we get home. So everything's been going great. And now there's just this little hiccup in our adventure. Well, one part of an adventure is the possibility that something's going to go wrong. Another, I think, exciting opportunity in an adventure is when something goes wrong, figuring out, what do you do with that? What do you do with what goes wrong? How do you how flexible are you when things go wrong, um, and it gives you an opportunity to problem solve, right? You have this problem. There's a and the problem really, I mean, oftentimes the problem is the tension between expectation and reality. You expected that, like, we didn't expect to lose any luggage. We didn't expect to lose his booster seat, that's for sure. We checked it in. We expected that it would be there. We expected to wait like everyone else is waiting for their luggage. We expected to gather our two pieces of luggage, being his booster seat and the check bag, and we expected to leave. And that expectation was what now we were having to wrestle with. The tension between what we were experiencing and what we expected. So I said, look, part of the adventure is figuring out another plan. What's the other plan? Well, we have two. We have two options. I mean, we have a few. I could have called Charisse at 1 in the morning and said, hey, can you drive down here with a car seat? I could have called another friend and asked if they could come down with a car seat. I could have chanced just bringing him up without a car seat, and that would have been an adventure. Or we could take this booster seat that we were offered, and it would be an adventure because he would be using a booster seat that he's never used before. I tried to reassure him with the thought that sometime in the future we're gonna remember this. We're gonna say, hey, do you remember that time that we flew and they lost your booster seat? Wasn't that crazy? We had to figure it out, what we were gonna do, how we were gonna get home and get you home safely. But we did, I knew we were gonna get you home safe. That's not a question. The question is just how, what is that gonna look like? So eventually he calmed down. He did calm down. We got on the shuttle. He, I don't know, was able to shift his attention a little bit, and that made all the difference in the world. We got back to the car. He was okay at that point with sitting in that booster seat and giving it a shot, and and he fell asleep about halfway home, which was kind of funny because, again, it didn't have any, he's used to leaning his head against some sort of a headrest thing. So when we got home, he was flopped over halfway over in the back seat. But I mean, it was fine. There was no traffic, nothing, nothing to worry about. It wasn't a big weekend or anything, so there wasn't anything to worry about in the way of loads of drunk drivers or anything. So either way, we took our time getting home. Well, while we're driving home and after he's fallen asleep, a second wave of this teachable moment kind of passes over me as I'm looking at my own life. And not just my life, but our life. And again, the opportunity for adventure in the midst of that tension between what we're expecting and what we're experiencing. So I started thinking about the divorce. I had told Judah, sometimes when you're on an adventure, sometimes you lose things, and sometimes those things are pretty important. Sometimes they're not necessarily important, but maybe they're sentimental. You know, could be a hat or a picture or something. You know, it's something sentimental. But that I know that God is there, and He guides us through these moments. Like I know that in my gut. He's there and He guides us through these moments, and He I don't know. He helps us find a way, a new path. And that was the other thing, was I told him, I was like, look, sometimes, you know, on an adventure, sometimes you lose things. Sometimes you get those things back. Sometimes. Hopefully we'll get his booster seat back. Hopefully they'll be able to find where it ended up and they'll send it to us. Sometimes you don't get those things back. Sometimes they're just lost, and then you have to figure out, is this something that needs to be replaced? Sometimes it is. If it's his booster seat, it is, right? He's gonna need, I mean, he has a car seat, but he's outgrowing that really quickly, so that's why I got the booster seat. So on one hand, there's that, right? Like, okay, yeah, that needs to be replaced. If it's like a sentimental thing, maybe it can't be replaced, and maybe it doesn't need to be replaced. So as I was driving home and thinking about that, about things that get lost, and I know that I never expected, there was never an expectation on any level that I would end up divorced, that Sharice and I would ever encounter something that we couldn't make it through together. I just never thought that. I never thought that would be a thing. I could never imagine what that thing would be. That would be the thing that we couldn't make it through. And it was under my nose the whole time. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if she knew what her limit was or what her thing was. I honestly, like, she didn't like this about me. There were times where we would talk before we got married, and I would tell her, look, I mean, without necessarily walking through every scenario, I have had to ask myself very difficult questions about how what I would expect, what I would accept of myself as far as how I would respond to any situation. And that was like, if she went crazy, if her family never welcomed me, if she ever cheated on me, if if she was ever violent, or if she became like a big spender, or if she couldn't work at all, and I just had to make sure that, you know, anything that I did was gonna be able to take care of us and any family that we might have, if we ended up staying in Utah forever. There were all sorts of scenarios and that's just me. That's me. It's like, if you play chess, you understand maybe a little bit of how that line of thinking goes, because as you're watching a chessboard, that's what you're doing. You're looking at every piece on the board, right? Your pieces and your opponent's pieces, and you're imagining all these different combinations of moves. You know, oh, okay, well, if they move that piece here, then that opens up this, and then I can move here, but well, if I move here, then they might move there. But okay, so let's back up. If instead of moving there, if I did this, you're constantly looking at everything and kind of surveying the situation. So I did that to the best of my ability. I mean, I'm sure it's kind of a naive endeavor, but I wanted, to the best of my ability, to say nothing. There was nothing that could ever come between us. So that was, I don't know, that was what I did. I don't know what she did, or and I don't know if what I did was, I don't think it's normal. I don't know. I don't think it's normal, but we didn't go into it with we didn't go into it with set boundaries to say, look, if you cross this boundary or this boundary, then that's it. All bets are off and we're done. So I can't say that she went into it with an expectation of divorce. I mean, I would have to say that it was as shocking to her in its own way that she would find herself in a place where she felt like divorce was the best course of action moving forward. I mean, and Judah, he didn't even know that word existed. His whole life was the three of us. It's just the three of us. And talk about the tension between what you're experiencing and what you expect in life. And I think those lessons, I think those thoughts still ring true. That sometimes you lose things, and sometimes God's able to reunite those things, and sometimes he isn't. Not that he isn't able to. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't allow it to happen with me. And sometimes those things are things that you need in your life, and he might allow for a replacement of sorts. And sometimes they're irreplaceable. I guess I'm still trying to figure out what those things are in my life. But I believe I can hear the voice of my Father. Just like I hope one day Judah will hear my voice, encouraging him in the midst of missed expectations, in the midst of plan B's and C's and D's. That the adventure isn't over just because something doesn't go according to plan. But we always have an opportunity to engage in finding a solution to whatever it is. I hope I'm able to raise him to be a resilient and resourceful man. And I don't know. And I look forward to the next lesson that I learn, or I'm reminded of, because I swear I have learned more um, since becoming a father than almost at any other time of my life. I think I had an opportunity to learn more as a husband. I just don't think that I did. Yeah, I don't think I did learn as much as a husband as I've learned as a father. Um, and maybe that was, I don't know, maybe my head just wasn't in the right place when I was a husband. But either way, I just look forward to the next lesson, and if anyone watches this, I would just encourage you in the same way to say, that in life, we'll have many opportunities to have our little meltdowns, throw our fits, and allow these unmet expectations to destroy us, or we can embrace that. That's a part of most adventures. I mean, look at movies that we watch. Most movies that we watch, right? There's some sort of like trajectory, life trajectory, or some sort of a goal, and then something comes in and messes it all up, and you feel like, oh gosh, the hero feels like maybe this thing won't happen now, and then it does. I mean, in most movies, I like the movies where it does, but they would be boring if there wasn't that setback. So embrace them, embrace the setbacks, embrace the opportunities to rethink, to reevaluate, to reapproach a situation, and see what can happen. Yeah. Well, good night, guys, and happy April Fool's Day.